Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. I wanted to make a video today regarding the various major landmarks and key features of the Canadian landscape, not only for people who aren't from Canada, but for people who are from Canada and perhaps aren't well traveled within their own region. Now this is going to be the first part in a series of videos that I'm going to be doing, and what I'm going to do is progressively get more microscopic with respect to my region that I'm in. And so I'm starting, of course, with Canada as a whole, identifying some of the key features and key things that we might need to know. And I'm going to be adding to this map as time goes on. And I am going to be making composite maps on the Google Maps or Google Earth. Either or of those would work, and I'm going to have an account on there, and that's going to be available to share with people. And eventually I'm going to get, like I said, I'm going to go into more deeper regions, just with my own region, because I don't know other regions of Canada too well. So I'm going to go first into the details about the major things we're going to want to know about Saskatchewan. You know, where the fresh water is, where the fish are, where the resources are, etc. And eventually I'm going to go even further. I might go, for instance, you know, a bit deeper into the general region around my city. And then eventually I'm going to get a map of my city itself, which is Saskatoon, right here. And I'm going to go into great detail with respect to that. I think situational awareness in a broader sense is quite important. And I would encourage people to make your own maps like this, and perhaps we can start a trend in the preposphere where people make maps of their regions, and perhaps collectively we can exhaust the entire geography of Canada by doing this and make ourselves aware of, you know, what are the key resources, where they are. And so long as, you know, a person wasn't being greedy with their information, I mean, chances are, hopefully we never have to use this, but it's good to know where things are and what's what. So I want to just quickly talk about my strategy here. I was inspired by Urban Prepper's color coding video as of recent, and so everything here is different. These tacks are meaningful, and they're placed approximately, but they're all based on statistics and facts. So we'll start off with the blue. So the blue pegs are population. So every blue tack represents 1 million people. So it's pretty clear to see what the distribution spread of population looks like in Canada. It's pretty much clustered around the Great Lakes region and the St. Lawrence River. And, you know, there is a growing population out here in the west, although this might look like it's close together, but anybody who's aware of the difference, the distances, especially with respect to the mountain range being here, it takes about 18 hours to get from here to Vancouver Island. So just to give you a little sense of perspective. Now that said, it only takes about 5 hours to get from here to here. That's because this is pretty much flat. This is prairie landscape, and but I'm getting a little off topic there. So back to the population thing. So clearly, population's clustered. So, you know, it leaves to the imagination what might happen in the case of a WROL when, or a potential, you know, the end of the world as we know it scenario. What might happen here? What is the sociology of the rural sprawl going to look like? Well, I predict that a lot of people are going to try to get out of this region. You know, I mean, when the grid is up, this is the place to be. I mean, this is where the opportunities are in Canada. This is where a lot of the money is, particularly out here. The populations are where the resources and the money are. For the most part, depends on what your, you know, what your interests are materially. But for the most part, if you want to get wealthy, you need to be in these major cities. That said, they're also the worst place to be in the instance of a collapse. So the problem with this scenario is, and this is why a lot of people might just head south, because in order to get from anywhere from Toronto, for instance, to Thunder Bay, it's 16 hours just from here to here. That's about, at best, in your most fuel-efficient vehicle, a tank and a half of gas. And that is, your most fuel-efficient vehicle driving at the most fuel-efficient speed. Chances are it's going to take you 2 or 3 tanks to get there. And that's just the Thunder Bay. Okay. As vast as Ontario and northern Quebec are, they simply cannot support 16 million people. This is about 60% of the Canadian population right here. There's about 2.5 million people in the Maritimes, approximately 500,000 in North Ontario. I just put a blue peg there just to make up for the difference. About 1.2 million people in Manitoba, 1 million in Saskatchewan, 4 million in Alberta, and 4 million in BC. So clearly these prairie provinces are going to be an abundant source of natural resources. The reason why there's not a lot of people living here is due to the climate. Okay, the cold Arctic air tends to come this way, and it gets milder throughout these regions here. Pretending to be a weatherman here, but these are milder climates. It still does get very cold here. Here it's generally warm year round, and what I mean by that is seldom does it go below 0. But of course in Edmonton, just right here actually, this place right here still gets to -40. So really, I'm talking like, just kind of, and even the mountain range gets pretty cold too. The warm part is just BC. It's this warm strip, and it kind of goes down here into the United States and comes back up like that. That's why there's nobody living there. However, there is a significant population of deer in this region here in the lower part of Canada, and there's an abundance of moose up here. I think there's something like 1 million moose. It's very hard to get wildlife estimates. I've looked into it, but they're very inaccurate. You can't really trust them. I mean, it's based on really sketchy statistics, and I'm sure there's a large margin of error there. So, but that's generally where the resources are. Lots of fish, lots of fresh water. Of course, around the Great Lakes, there's 40 million people. So how are these people going to diffuse to these resources? I have a feeling that this is going to be a hotbed of activity when the shit hits the roof, as Jimmy Rants would say. Now, these yellow dots, these are nuclear power plants. Yellow tacks are nuclear power plants. There's only 5 nuke plants in Canada. Okay, I should probably add the American nuclear power plants, because clearly nuclear radiation doesn't know any borders. So that's something I'm going to be adding at some point. At least the ones that are in range of the jet stream. So that's definitely something to consider in a total grid down scenario. Should the power outage exceed the nuclear power plant's ability to power itself with backup generators, that's going to be an issue. And it's unfortunate that the largest part of the population, I suppose it's appropriate though, that they would buy these massive power sources. Now the white are kind of unique, and I was contemplating whether or not I should put this in there, but really it's more for, something for people to ponder. These are maximum security prisons. Okay, this one was built in 1989. It's clear why it was built up there. It's in the middle of nowhere, pretty much, and it's right off the Atlantic Ocean, right at the entrance of the St. Lawrence River. There's pretty much a major penitentiary in every province, with the exception of Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. There are lots of medium security prisons that aren't on this map. I believe there's about 10 maximum security prisons, about 19 minimum security prisons, and several correctional centers or low security prisons. You're going to want to know where those are, in such case that those prisoners have to be either set free, or there's some kind of prison break in the instance of a grid down scenario. I don't know what sort of emergency protocols exist within these prisons. I mean, when the power goes out, do the gates just open? And, who's to say what happens? I don't know. That's something I'm definitely going to look into. The red ones are Canadian military bases, at least the ones as civilians were permitted to know about. These are air, navy, and military bases. I don't have specific tax for each of those three branches of the military, but you get a general sense of where the military is and what their capabilities are going to be in the instance of a WROL. So, I mean, if you're far from one of these places, like, smack dab in the middle of North Ontario, how likely is it that you're going to be able to get help? And of course, with the population and the nuke plants, the military is clustered around that region there. So I do plan on adding other things to this map at some point. This is just sort of an introduction. I hope to upgrade this as time goes on and progressively make it more detailed. And like I say, I want this all to be backed by statistics and research. I'm not just putting these tags anywhere. Obviously, for certain reasons, I can't put these tags exactly in the place because Toronto itself has a Greater Toronto region has 5 million people. It's very hard to put that many tags in that small little region. But generally speaking, it's accurate. And what I would like to do eventually is go right down to the urban level and pinpoint things like, these are things you should probably know off heart, and by heart, but even, just in doing this exercise, you might be able to embed these things deeply into your memory. So, for instance, looking for places where you can get fuel, looking for places where you can get medical supplies, pharmacies, pegging the pharmacies on the map, pegging the, stores that have access to certain supplies that you might need, and I'm not condoning like looting or marauding or anything of that nature, but, if it's an emergency situation and you're pretty much in dire straits, then, and it's, everybody has evacuated or something like that, that might be an instance where you need to know where what might be, and also identifying where some major hazards might be, So that's what I hope to do, and I hope to start a trend in that respect so we can potentially cover, every Canadian province, every Canadian region, and every Canadian city. I know that might sound grandiose, but, there's a lot of people on YouTube, and I think even if we could cover some of the more major centers, and I think that would be a very good start. And, they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and you don't want to go into battle without a strategy. And I really think getting a visual understanding of your surroundings, be they, in a macro perspective or on a more regional, municipal perspective, is quite beneficial in that respect. What I hope to do at some point is also integrate into these maps an idea of the natural resources and, the major river systems, freshwater systems, places that are good to hunt, places that are good to fish, things of that nature. And even, possibly even like trail systems and stuff like that. Now that's getting pretty in-depth, and for that you might need to access something like a Backroads map book. As you can see, my province, it's blanketed in these grid roads. So it's as vast as it is, it's been cut up pretty nicely by these mile-long grid roads, except in the north where it's just incredible amounts of land up here. Like it's insane how many lakes there really are just in this one province in Canada. It's they would never find you. Like, take a look at this. This is just one section of the map. I mean, these are all lakes, and they're named lakes. Okay? Like, Canada is fucking huge. And it's all like that. I guarantee you there's probably a lake in Saskatchewan named after everybody in the world. That might be a bit of an overstatement, but Manitoba is a lot worse. So, you know, I think that this is a good approach. And on the back there, it gives you these are actually pretty useful, these backroad map books. It shows you which page everything is on, which, you know, if you want to go to a certain region, which page it's on. And of course, as you get up to this region here, the boreal forest region, which runs essentially from the Yukon down to here, down to here, down to here, down to here, and kind of just like that. That's all boreal forest. There's thousands, if not millions, of wildlife, from bears to moose to elk, caribou, white-tailed deer, mule deer, all sorts of deer. And geese, lots of waterfowl, lots of fish. There's lots of stuff to eat. The only problem is the climate, you know, and that's why there's so few people here. However, focus there for you. Sorry about that. However, you know, if a person was dedicated and committed to getting out to one of those regions, it may well be possible. So I would like your input with respect to what I could add to this map. I really would like to add more points of interest. So I'm relying on you guys to sort of help me out and help me make this Canada map a little fuller. And like I say, what I'd like to do at some point is make a complimentary virtual map of this using Google Maps. I've done it before for my hikes and stuff like that. And I'll probably link that through this account, so it will be accessible to people. And yeah, like I say, I really would like your insight as to, you know, if there's anything else that a prepper should know for, you know, geographically speaking. And like I say, I'd like us to get this down to the municipal level. You know, and in a lot of ways, this is like it's almost like a real-time strategy game. It's almost like Risk or something, you know, where it's, you know, you're trying to geographically strategize your resources, and I think it's an interesting exercise anyways. Perhaps it's all in vain, you know, who cares, right? Prepping is a sport, and most preppers don't waste their time with sports, and this is our hobby. So anyways, let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and by all means share. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.